Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Matt here with you. Today, we're going to be discussing some of the changes to version 5.4.4.0. Now, typically, we don't record YouTube videos for updates. However, just taking a look at the changelog for this particular version, you'll note it's really extensive. More so than its size of the changelog is we have fundamentally changed the way FSFO operates. So we thought it would be a good idea to take a little bit of time to discuss those changes to hopefully get you up and flying really, really quickly. With that, a few disclaimers. To be honest with you, this is now the fourth time I've attempted to record this video, but I've encountered errors and I wanted to fix those errors before showcasing this version. However, that doesn't preclude that we will encounter different bugs. Rest assured, though, I have my notebook next to me, and we'll make note of them and get those fixed before we push this version out. The second disclaimer comes with an apology. Unfortunately, because we have made some pretty significant structural changes to FSFO, we will require you to have to restore your checklist. The apology portion comes because I know several of you have spent a lot of time to get those flows and checklists just the way you wanted them, but there was really no way around this. We've added, again, some more flows and more checklists to bring FSFO more in line with the particular aircraft manufacturing standard operating procedures. So the best thing to do is just restore your checklist and start from here. If you don't, FSFO will not operate appropriately. I do want to say, though, I really do apologize for that. Again, I do not like wasting people's time. There's just no way around that, though, folks. So apologize for that. Please restore your checklist once you get this version. I have made some changes that I hope you'll find useful once to restore checklist that maybe it won't require you to spend as much time. And we'll showcase that once we get to the editor portion of this video. Third disclaimer is I really wanted to push this out this weekend. I thought we were in a pretty good state. However, I did not have a lot of time to focus on development this week. If you've been on Discord or been on our FSFO Discord channel, you probably know we have added several members to the FSFO community. So I had to shift my focus away from development and over to support in order to make sure everybody gets up and running, because when you spend your money, that's just what you deserve. You deserve that support. So I am thankful, though, for 3 people on Discord. I have been able to do a little bit of development because of those. So Keith, Tennessee Shadow, Joe, and Chris out there on Discord providing outstanding support, longtime FSFO users. And quite frankly, as the developer, they know as much about it as I do. And in fact, Chris is doing a video to help everyone out that I hope we'll find useful, and we'll definitely get the link once he finishes it up. Okay, that's the disclaimer. Let's go ahead and get right into it. You'll note immediately that the primary GUI for FSFO just looks different. We've added 2 buttons. Again, this is to facilitate a more realistic approach to flows and checklists. The default currently loaded is a Boeing type aircraft. So you'll see, like for example, before takeoff flows been added, after takeoff flows have been added. Once we connect the FSFO to the simulator, it will detect an Airbus, and these will change to a lineup flow, an acceleration flow, and so forth. Those flows and checklists will now mimic Airbus or Boeing or Embraer, depending on whatever model it is or manufacturer you're flying. And again, we'll see that once we connect FSFO to the simulator. Moving over now to the radio, this has replaced the configuration option. Don't worry, the configuration options are still available. They're just up here, and we'll take a look at that in just a few minutes. So what FSFO will now do in this version is, if you have an appropriate flight plan, most notably a departure and arrival ICAO codes, FSFO will look for the frequencies associated with those airports and pre-populate them here. What this will allow you to do is it will allow you simply to click the button associated or next to the frequency, and your copilot will automatically tune that frequency into the aircraft for you. You can also use voice commands. For example, for ATIS, I could simply say get the weather, and the copilot would go ahead and tune this frequency into the radio. Same with contact clearance, contact ground, contact tower, so forth. Those are all codified within the voice command options, which you can look at via this page here. Now, note there are multiple grounds, multiple towers. You don't have to say contact departure ground, contact arrival ground. just say contact ground. FSFO is smart enough to recognize which ground you want. Now, we did not forget about VATSIM users. If you fly on the VATSIM networks and you want these populated with VATSIM frequencies, you can just click this button right here. FSFO will go out and look at the VATSIM network, and it will look to see if there are any controllers online. There are 125 controllers available, and it looks like we do have one at Bangor. It looks like Bangor ground is online. So let's go ahead and see if that's accurate by looking at the VATSIM, and it looks like it is. So if you look here, you can see that the ground controller is online, 121.9, 121.9. So that is for you VATSIM users, and I hope you find that useful. Now back over to the GUI. You'll note again, we talked about the pages, but there's also 2 additional buttons down here. Let's go ahead and minimize that. This allows you to toggle through the available pages. Currently, there are 3 pages available. On the 3rd page, this is where you will eventually find all of our emergency procedures and flows. Note right now, we do have 2 available, the departure change checklist and the go around flow. These will eventually be populated with some of the more prevalent emergency procedures like engine out and so forth. Also available, if you choose to use buttons for your to initiate the briefings, those are also on the 3rd page now, as well as the option to reset the flight. So let's say you get done the flight and you arrived at your destination airport, you've completed all your flows and checklists, and you want to start a new flight without restarting FSFO, just come to page 3, reset the flight, and you should be good to go. All right, over to page 1 again, and let's go ahead and take a look at the configuration options. You'll note right away that the ability to define who's responsible for powering up the aircraft, as well as the power up source, have been removed. That's because they've been moved to the editor. So now you can define who pushes the battery, who does the safety checks, and so forth and so forth. The ability to choose the power up source is also over on the aircraft editor. So you don't have to do it now. It's no longer a global setting. You can do it per aircraft. And we'll get a look at that here once we load up the editor. An option available within the SOPs page though is the turnaround state. So what this is essentially during the first flight of the day, the pilot and co-pilot are required to perform system test and other procedures that they're not required to on subsequent flights of the day. So this gives you the ability to control when FSFO considers the flight the first flight of the day. Right now I have it set to battery. So if I connect FSFO to the sim and the battery is off, FSFO will consider this the first flight of the day. If the battery is on, then it's obviously going to be considered a subsequent flight, and thus those procedures, first flight of the day procedures, will not be executed. He will do his turnaround flow as opposed to the pre-flight procedure flow. If I have it set to APU, the APU must be running for me to consider this a turnaround flight, and vary the same for the GPU. The GPU must be running for this to be a turnaround flight. Just to be clear, if you have the APU selected and the GPU is running when FSFO is connected, he would still consider this the first flight of the day. So that gives you control over when a turnaround state is detected and when it's not. Moving over now to the options, the new available option here is the auto checklist. What this will do is if it's enabled, which it is, here, every time a checklist follows a flow, FSFO will automatically initiate that checklist 8 seconds after the flow completes. So this only is useful, again, when a checklist follows a flow. Okay, moving on over now to the options. You'll note here that several of the ground service options have been removed. They have been now placed over to the editor. For example, catering, PAX loading, fueling, all over to the aircraft editor. That gives you total control instead of having a arbitrary number value that counts down a timer. You now get to control exactly when the catering happens within the flow, when the boarding happens within the flow, and we'll show that once we get over to the aircraft editor. A couple new options. You notify crossing ATC boundaries. Very useful, I hope, for VATSIM flyers. What this is once you cross over to an ATC boundary, FSFO will notify you, hey, you're in boundary, whatever boundary you're in, that will list it here, or whatever, excuse me, not boundary, whatever center you just crossed over to. So for example, if you just crossed over to Jacksonville Center, you'll get a beep sound, and then it will let you know, and then it will go out to the VATSIM network, and it will look for any controls that are online and provide that data here. I also hope that this will eventually be useful on Beyond ATC. That is going to be my ATC of choice once it's fully released, not because they did a video on FSFO. They are providing some features that in 2+ decades I have been asking for, requesting, or hoping for. For example, reading through, it looks like they're going to have integration with ATC and VATSIM. So areas that aren't covered by VATSIM will be covered by Beyond ATC. To me, that is a game changer, and super excited to have that option available to us. And more so, definitely going to reach out to see if we can do some integration between FSFO and Beyond ATC. So to provide, like, for example, voice controls or whatever smart integration we can do between the two of us, I am open to it to make these programs seamless. Gate ATIS, what this does is if you are on the ground during the pre-flight flow, a second window would open and FSFO would look for the ATIS information. So actually, we can demonstrate this right now. We can just go to the flight planning page, and if we select ATIS arrival and hit go, a second window will download. There's the beep, and there's all the relevant ATIS information for Boston International. Now, if you had this selected, you wouldn't have to go to the pre-flight planning page, excuse me. What would happen is the window would just open during the point for if you're on the ground during the point in the pre-flight procedures. It would just pop open. You would hear a beep if ATIS information is available to you. If you're in the ground, the window would automatically open when you are 15 nautical miles from the top of the descent. That enables you to better plan for your approach. Again, we can see here that at Boston, it looks like runways 33 Lima and 27 are the departing runways and arrival runways. So ATIS information is useful again for flight planning. We also have the weather along with the altimeter. So that's what that is. If you want this window to automatically pop up during the pre-flight flow or while you're in the air, 15 nautical miles from the top of descent, you would have this turned on. ATIS or GSX integration. Remember, we did talk about how the ground services have been moved over to the editor, but they're still reliant on this right here. So it depends on whether or not, let's say, we have ground catering within the pre-flight procedure, whether or not FSFO uses the GSX menu to call catering, or Microsoft Flight Simulator's embedded catering will still be based on this option. And again, I will show you that here in just a little bit. Advanced option, you notice here, now it allows for negative numbers. The reason I have -1 here is because I like to use auto flow options, which is the automatic initiation of the flows based on certain parameters. As you can see here, for example, the before start flow will be initiated when all the doors are shut. However, the only one I don't want to have automated is the pre-flight flow. That's because I want time to look through the pre-flight procedures, and I want to control when FSFO starts. So I hit negative, or I enter -1 here. That will prevent the pre-flight flow from automatically starting, but all the other auto flows will work as they should. Hopefully, in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, they will give us the option to open the door again without jetways and other things, because that is the most logical use of the pre-flight flow to start once the doors are open, but not really possible in this version of Flight Simulator. Moving on down, you'll notice that there are a few more options: before takeoff and lineup flow, before takeoff for Boeing type aircraft, and lineup flow for Airbus. It's set to 550 feet. So once the aircraft gets within 550 feet of the runway identified right here, then FSFO would automatically start the before takeoff and or lineup flow. Again, only if you have auto flow enabled, which I do. 2,500 feet AGL, above ground level. What this is when the aircraft exceeds 2,500 feet above AGL, the copilot would automatically start the after takeoff flow for Boeing and acceleration flow for Airbus. Descent flow is now automatic too, and that's based on this parameter, which is set to 15 nautical miles before the top of descent. The copilot would automatically start the descent flow. Moving on over to GUI. We have a couple of new options. One is use 12 font. There were several users who could not read the checklist in OFP. So what we did was we provided the option to make those a little bigger. So for example, if you select use 12 font and you come over to OFP, you'll notice it's quite a bit bigger. Same is true with the checklist. If you switch it off and you toggle back, it reverts back to its default font size. So let me know if this is large enough. If it's not, we will move it up to make sure that everybody can see the screen for FSFO. All right, moving down now is you'll note map type. I have it set to OpenStreet, but you can also use several other options. What this is, let's say, for example, you go to Fleet and we want to see where this particular aircraft is. You'll notice now it will open an OpenStreetMap. Again, you can choose whatever map you want to use. This will become more prevalent as we continue to build out the company options into the future. All right, so that is the options new that we have added. Let's go ahead and get to the meat of the changes, which are represented on the editor screen. All right, coming over, let's go ahead and load the Phoenix and then the cockpit prep flow. You'll note right here, right off the bat, that the safety checks have been added. So what that is again, the copilot will look at the wipers, the landing gears, make sure the flaps are up, just everything that you should scan when you get into the aircraft before you apply power. There's the batteries, as previously discussed. You can now choose who's responsible. If you want to be responsible, same as every other setting, you could just either remove it by clicking here or clicking the who's responsible. Simply click on the FSFO and change it to captain. Again, this is our power up source. We have it set to GPU, but you could easily set it to electric APU if you wanted, and then that's how you switch now between which power up source you want to use. The doors have also been moved over to the editor, so you can choose when the doors are open and close. Ideally, these would be set at the very top, but unfortunately for the Phoenix, it needs power to the MCDU. That's how FSFO manipulates the doors within the aircraft by the MCDU. So that's why they're after the power has been established. This needs to be removed because I have now moved the ATIS retrieve. So we'll see that when we restore the checklist. We've also added the ability to choose how bright you want all the panels. So for your PFD, your ND, and the ECAM panels right here, you can choose now how bright you want them. Of note, earlier we talked about all the ground services being moved over to the editor, and we'll see if we can quickly find one. And there's one right there. So you can see here, ground catering now will be started right after the copilot sets the transponder mode. The same is true with the ground loading. That will come after the copilot tunes the radios. Speaking of radio tuning, new option. So remember we talked here about the frequencies. Well, I have FSFO, my copilot, to tune the ATIS frequency and then wait 50 seconds so I can hear the ATIS from the airport. And then once that's done, he'll tune it back. I have it set to 9 because I'm on the BATSM network. So he'll look for the nearest controller, which apparently in this case is going to be ground. But let's say ground wasn't online and only Boston Center was. Well, he would tune the Boston Center frequency because that's who you would contact for your departure clearance. So new options are radio tune. Several new options available now based on your feedback and what you wanted. All right, as previously said or stated, we have to restore the checklist. So let's go ahead and restore the checklist. Super easy. Just select which aircraft you want to restore. In this case, the Phoenix A320. We're going to click the restore button, identify yes, we do want to restore. Now, it's going to ask us now, do you want to use realistic crew coordination for flows? Real quick, well, actually, we'll do this process, then a couple disclaimers on the flows. I am going to select yes, I do want to use realistic flows. And yes, I do want the copilot to load the fuel and the payload by the MCDU for me. I still want that. I am a VATSM flyer, so I will require my transponder to be on after start flow. So I'm going to select yes. And then again, remember we talked about this earlier that you can include the ground services within the editor, but which ground services are used are still based on this setting right here. Remember that GSX integration? So if you choose yes, just make sure you have the right integration flow. All right, so now if we go look at the editor, it's going to look a little different because we're using realistic flows. So for example, right off the bat, you can see that the captain is now responsible for setting the brightness on his specific displays, which is realistic. The Copilot wouldn't reach all the way across to turn on the captain's displays. Also of note, when you choose realistic, that makes the captain responsible, or the pilot flying responsible, for programming the MCDU as well as performing the walk around. Now, and there's the MCDU. The prior disclaimers, I just want to make it clear. I see this a lot on Discord and other areas, like, hey, FSFO doesn't follow SOPs. Well, SOPs is very dependent on which airline you fly for. So, for example, if you take a look at the Delta's SOP for the 737, you could see during the pre-flight flow, the only thing the Copilot would be responsible for is programming the FMC. The pilot not flying is literally responsible for everything else. That is vastly different from Southwest Airlines or from Ryanair. So SOPs are very dependent on what airline you fly for. So when you're saying, hey, it's not following SOPs, that really, that doesn't really mean much because, again, SOPs are just so dependent on the airline. However, what we have chosen to do is we're going to follow the recommended, for example, Boeing and Airbus SOPs. And I downloaded a really great product from the two, and I wish the gentleman left his name on the product, or lady, so I could give the appropriate credit. I will definitely provide a link, but these are the flows and the SOPs that we're going to use. So for example, during the before start flow, you could see that the Copilot's responsible for the beacon lights, ECAM status, and the throttle, as well as the window. So you can see here, check closed. So that is exactly what we chose to mimic for Airbus. The same is true for Boeing. So if you go to editor and we go back to Phoenix, and then we come down to the before start flow, and there's all the captains responsible for the beacon, the throttles, the parking brake. We are following this SOP to the letter. So for example, the after start flow, you can see the captain is responsible for the engine mode, the APU bleed, all these things right here, which precisely mimics this flow pattern right here. So captain or pilot flying identified by a magenta, and then yellow for pilot not flying. So these are the flows that we're using. I'll leave a link for Airbus and for Boeing as well. That is what will happen if you choose realistic flow. I certainly hope that meets what several of you have requested. We will continue to work on providing more options via the editor so you can get it how you want it to fly by whatever SOP a virtual airline you fly for. That's incredibly important to us to make FSFO easy to use, but also make it work for everyone. All right, so I want to showcase FSFO's full ability. So what I'm going to do is go back and restore, but this time I am not going to use the realistic checklist. I'm going to have my Copilot do everything for me, as well as use some ground services. Okay, so there it is. That is everything I think explained. Let's go ahead and start connect FSFO to the sim. Again, the pre-flight flow, or in this case, the cockpit prep flow, shouldn't start because we have that -1 value. FSFO will do its thing. It will look the jetway. Let's take a look at our flight plan. I often get asked, hey, what's the initial altitude? Well, or the init altitude. What this is would be the altitude you would want the Copilot to set during the pre-flight flow if you have him responsible for programming the autopilot. We're not using ATC today, so we can leave this at 0. But let's say you knew the approach plate out of Boston, for example. I think it's 5,000 feet for jet aircraft. You would put 5,000 here, and then the Copilot would program that in to the FCU up here. Now, note, the Phoenix, yes, we can read all the autopilots now. We can set them by a voice. If you own other FSFO products, it works the same. So no more disclaimer for the Phoenix. It works as it should. So moving down, I know my flex speed because I use an old program called TopCat. and I got the performance data for this specific flight, so we wouldn't have to. We could hurry up the EFB process. All right, we're going to use auto brakes low because we've heard some reports that it wasn't being set on the Phoenix, so that's our option here to test it. The new altitude. I often get asked, hey, what is the new altitude? What this is, if you set a number here higher than 0, FSFO will program this in when you're within 10 nautical miles of the top of the descent. So I want the copilot to automatically set 2,000 feet. Once I get within 10 nautical miles, he will do that if I have 2,000 set here. My max zero fuel weight is 30.4. And then I have my V speeds here, 123, 126, and then this is 142. All right, looks like we have 126 packs today, light cargo, so we're pretty light. VREF will get that when we're in the air. What the condition is you can now set your condition, and this is what will be used during your departure and approach briefings. It looks like a nice clear day, so we're going to hit normal, and then our gate that we're FSFO is assigned to us is Echo 4 at Boston. So we are all set. Everything looks good. We're on the ground. FSFO has detected the Phoenix A320, which is critical, and auto flows are on. All my radio frequencies look good. And so now we can start the cockpit prep flow. And we could do this via voice or click a button. Let's just click a button. And now, as we noted before, remember we talked about the safety checks being now moved to the editor. FSFO is just checking the throttle, Captain. The flaps, all those things we talked about before. Now he's going to go ahead and turn on the batteries. There's the batteries. He's going to wait for the next action for the batteries to kind of heat up, if you will, and then he's going to go ahead and turn the flight deck lighting on. We have that value set to 2, which means he will leave it alone during the hours of daytime and only set it during hours of darkness. We have identified the ground power source. Now, that beep right there was the ATIS screen opening up based on the prior option. There is no automated ATIS at Bangor, so we got no ATIS data available for Kilo Bravo Golf Romeo. We can close that. The next time that window will open is when we get within 15 nautical miles of the top of descent, and it will then provide us the ATIS information for Boston. Let's go ahead and apply a little bit of sound. Just a little bit. We don't want to overpower so you guys can hear me. There's the ground power. Now, remember we said the doors are been moved to the editor. This is where we command the copilot to open the doors. You could set that to all the doors open, left, right. That's all available now in the editor. Copilot is now setting the brightness on the screens. Once he completes that, you'll see the nav. There we go. IRU's moving the nav, 1, 3, then 2. Oxygen supply will go on. There's the ground control, so we can talk to ground. Testing the voice now, recorders. There's the test. Seatbelt signs going to on. Everything as it should. We'll see the light test now. There it is. Checking all the bulbs. Wing anti-ice, make sure that's off. And then he's going to turn up the heat because it's a cooler day at Bangor. Main battery test, taking one battery off, checking the voltage. If it's not high enough, he will let you know. Excuse me, I'll be right back. Had the cough. I did not want to cough in your ears. Now here comes the fire control test. These can take a little bit. Again, this is the first flight of the day. The copilot would not be performing these tests if, in our case, because we have the first flight of the turnaround set to battery. If you had the battery on, he wouldn't be testing these systems right now. Okay, we're almost done with the smoke test. I figured that was a good time to cough again. Once we get down to the Captain Barrow mode, you'll see him switch that because I fly in the U.S. Thank you for a Discord user online who found a bug when a different option was selected. The copilot was inadvertently setting this back. All corrected now, so thank you. Coming down now, we're going to take a look at the hydraulic pressure. We're going to take a look then at the oxygen and oil. If they're not at appropriate quantities, he will let you know. Okay, there's the catering. Remember, we talked about that within the editor. He just opened the rear door, and catering should be en route now. And there's the programming the MCDU based on the information from SimBrief. Now, guys, if you want some voice acknowledgement when catering is called, let me know. I thought about doing that, but I don't know if it's necessary. But as always, feedback is always appreciated. Here we go. We're requesting the data now from SimBrief. 11 seconds for it to download. And then we should get some verbal acknowledgement or a request to check the flight plan page. And there's the catering truck requested. We're putting in our flight number. And then the cost index will go in as well as the altitude. Again, FSFO is unique in that it will program 95% of the MCDU FMC for you. All you have to do is the SIDS and stars and runways. Okay, there's the init page. He's now going to request the wind data. We're going to wait 10 seconds for that to download. And while that's all downloaded... Oh, I didn't want weather. Excuse me.
Captain, when you get a moment, would you mind taking a look at the SIDS and stars for me?
There we go. There's requesting for the SIDS and stars.
And he's going to head walk around.
And there's the catering truck as previously discussed. We're using Microsoft Flight Simulator. It looks like he already finished up, so catering is now done. Let's get back into the cockpit. And while he's on his walk around, now is a great time to go ahead and look at SIDS and stars. And we said runway 33, Bangor 4 departure, insert that, and then going into Boston. Per the ATIS information, it looks like they were using runway 27, which is perfect. Ocean 5, and then Kennebunkport. My preferred route, it only takes 45 minutes to test. I can get a full flight in and test in all under 45 minutes, which is why I prefer this route. Okay, looks like we're all good. All discontinuities have been cleared, and we are good to go. For the sake of time, we're going to call the not the cockpit back in, but the copilot back into the cockpit. And then when he gets back, he should tune the radios to that aforementioned ATIS frequency, and we can listen to Bangor International's airport, or excuse me, ATIS information. Let's call him back.
Aircraft looks good.
And now he's going to tune the radio. And there's the radio right there.
Visibility, 9er. Sky condition, clear. Temperature, 15. Dew point, 13. Altimeter 29er, decimal 9er 2. ILS runway tree in use. Landing and departing runway tree. DFR aircraft say direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions. Advise controller on initial contact you have Oscar. Bangor Air...
Okay.
The gate agent is ready. Are we okay to start boarding?
Now, again, you can say yes here, or you can simply hold the Control plus Shift key. Getting back to that radio frequency, if you want that sooner in the flow, it's up to you. Again, that's in the editor. You can move it up to wherever you want. Just know that you do need power applied to the aircraft before you can tune the radios. And you can tune whatever radio frequency you want. All right, so let's go ahead and start boarding.
Yes, we're all set up here.
All right, the boarding is started. Now the copilot is going to go ahead and program the init B page and then the performance page. So of note, in order to appropriately program this, remember we said the 30.4 on the flight planning page, that's what he's putting in there. That's a value that you need to enter if you have the copilot set to program init B page. Okay. There we go. Flaps are 1. Remember we designated that on, again, the flight planning page. He's going to set that in. Remember we said we're going to use a flex of 62. There that is. And then we set the V speeds, which he should be entering now. He will check to make sure the transition altitude is set correctly, which it should be. Fantastic. Everything is working so far. Okay. It'd be odd if we get through this without a single bug. That will be a record. All right, there we go. Flight director's coming on. And there's the new ability to set the altitude, which is awesome. Everything is set as it should be. We're in manage mode. Okay, now he's going to check to make sure that, yep, the MCDU page now is going to be set. Again, you can choose which page you want to set within the editor, as well as the eCam page. It is up to you. And remember we said auto, the checklist would auto start? Well, here we go. 8 seconds, the flow is complete, and now he's going to automatically start the checklist.
Cockpit preparation.
Completed.
Fuel 12908 pounds.
Check.
Passenger signs.
On.
IRU.
Nav.
Error reference.
29991.
29991.
Check.
FMGS.
Set. Departure briefing. It will be a left seat takeoff from Kilo, Bravo, Golf, Romeo, 2, Kilo, Bravo, Oscar, Sierra. The reported runway conditions are normal. Taxi route is per ATC instructions. We'll be departing on runway 33, climbing via the departure procedures to an initial altitude of 26,000 feet. Standard reject and emergency procedures apply. Any questions?
No.
Completed.
Cockpit prep checklist complete.
And there we go. That is the cockpit check complete. Again, I prefer to use voice to call the checklist, so I am going to turn off auto checklist. That was just to showcase you the new feature. You also heard that beep during the departure. What that is now we'll get dispatch messages, and we're going to grow these over time. As you can see, though, we have been cleared from company to Boston. Looks like our flight time is 57 minutes, and we're due in at 17:49 Zulu. It's not a company flight because I have career mode off. We'll test that a little later. The total passengers are 126. This will become more relevant as we build the company, which I was hoping to
Captain,
do now.
all passengers have boarded. I'll bring the manifest to the cockpit once we get everyone seated.
Which I was really hoping to build out, but I've taken the last 2 months instead to make those structural changes that a lot of you asked for. Again, the flows for Boeing and Airbus and Embraer and all those others. All right, so we have auto mode on to start the before start flow. What we want to do is we want to close our windows, or not our window. Well, you want to close the windows, but we also want to close the doors, and that should automatically start the before start flow. There we go, right on cue. Okay, the auxiliary power unit will go on.
Dear passengers, this is
That is also FSFO. You can play the safety message that was recording. I have that turned off because it is 4 minutes. Just click on this button right here, and it will play the actual our pre-recorded video from a real-world airline. Again, expediency is the key for testing because we want to get through as quick as possible so we can get this out to you. Notes down here, magenta, these things these actions in magenta, that is the captain's responsibility. You can see it's our job to for taxi clearance, and then I have start ACAR set for the virtual airline. I'm guilty of forgetting to do that, so that's why that's down there. We are just waiting for the APU to get above a 98%. And then the copilot will move and request that we remove the ground power in the chocks. There we go.
Can you ask the ground crew to go ahead and remove the chocks?
So now we'll interact with the panel, or the EFB, excuse me. Go to ground services, and we will remove the GPU first, and then the chocks. One thing I haven't looked at now that I'm thinking about it, I wonder if in this new model, Phoenix exposes data in the EFB. That would be tremendous if they did. Okay, so there's the before start flow. All the passengers are loaded. Let's go ahead and execute the before start checklist. Before start checklist.
Before start checklist. Parking brake.
Set.
Takeoff speeds. V1, 1, 2, 3. VR, 1, 2, 6. V2, 1, 4, 2.
Set.
Doors.
Closed.
Beacon lights.
On.
Before start checklist complete.
And that is the new speech recognition engine. I completely ripped it out and rewrote it from scratch. So I hope that it's a lot more accurate for those of you that were having some difficulties with it before. It seems to work well. Let's go ahead now and start the pushback sequence. We're going to do an automated using FSFOs pushback. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the distance. Our distance or unit of measurement within the sim is set to feet. So this is 120 feet. If you were set to a different unit of measurement, it would be meters. So 120 feet. And then I want the tail to go left, nose to go right. And then once it gets 120 feet to stop the pushback. So let's automate it by just clicking this button right here.
Ground from cockpit.
Go ahead.
Ready for pushback.
Connecting tug. I'll let you know when the pin's inserted.
Okay, so we're going to connect the tug. And then we're going to turn the parking brake to off. Again, just an extra feature along with RAWs, free for FSFO. I have no intentions of charging anyone for additional things to be added to FSFO. I will let other people do that. My goal, one of our three main core values, is to ensure FSFO remains affordable and to be a value proposition for
Steering
everyone.
inserted, release parking brake.
And I intend to do that. There's the
Starting
parking
push.
brake. And then we should get cleared to start engines.
Cleared to start engine.
Perfect. Start engines.
Starting
And
engine 2.
There's engine 2 starting. And again, yeah, there is no more button in voice mode. You can use voice as I am interchangeably, just clicking a button and using your voice or clicking buttons. It no longer matters. There is no more voice in button mode. Again, FSFO is meant to be easy. Now, I will acknowledge that using the editor and setting up checklists and flows can be complicated, but that's just to provide the flexibility that so many people have asked for. Right now, I can't believe we haven't even encountered a single bug. That's, Okay, we are pushing back still. And we should be getting pretty close to the 120 feet.
Engine 2 started.
Engine 2 is started.
Stopping pushback. Set parking brake.
Okay, set parking brake.
Starting engine 1.
So as you can see, it's damn near perfect. If you know that what feet, FSFO will give you a pretty solid pushback. So no need to buy or download other expensive, or not expensive, but add-ons for pushback. FSFO will do it for you. And by the way, I could have done this via voice too. I should have showed that, but we've showed it in the past via voice. I actually kind of prefer the automated mode now anyways. Just put the value in, how far you want to push back, and push the play button. Call it good. All right, we're just waiting for engine 1 to start now.
Engine 1 started.
And there's engine 1. Hopefully you'll note that FSFO, this upgrade is a little more seamless too. At least that's my hope. By the way, to clear messages, all you have to do is double click in here, and that will clear the message. Same for this. So just double click and you can clear those messages. Engines are stable, so we have it set to 15 seconds after engine stables to automatically start the after start flow. And that just gives me a time to look to make sure that everything is operating as it should, and it looks like we are good to go. So there's the after start flow. APU is coming off. Nose light will come on. Speed brake will arm. Reset the rudder trim. And I need to set the trim to 0.8. Okay, we're good. And now we can perform the after start checklist.
After start checklist. Anti-ice.
Set.
ECAM status.
Check.
He's gonna...
Trim.
Set.
After start checklist complete.
Okay, everything looks good. Let's go ahead and initiate a little power. And so it looks like dispatch message. We've been cleared to runway 33. Departure frequency is 118.925. Okay, so let's go ahead and turn the parking brake off. Parking brake off. Okay, we'll apply a little power, and then once the FSFO detects the aircraft moving, we'll start the taxi flow. Probably
Clear on the right.
Clear on the left.
Okay, there's our clear on the left. Auto brakes were just set to max. And there's our test configuration. Notice that, yep, we test the configuration. And now once we get here straight, we'll go ahead and execute our taxi checklist.
From the flight deck, wanted to take a few moments to welcome you on board and thank you for flying with us this afternoon. As you can see, we're already taxiing out to our assigned runway and are expecting an on-time departure. So for now, just sit back, relax, and we'll have you in the air shortly.
Okay, let's go ahead and execute the taxi checklist.
Taxi checklist. Flight control test. Full left. Neutral. Full right. Full back. Full forward.
Check.
Flaps.
Set.
Radar and PWS.
Set.
Engine mode.
Set.
ECAM memo.
Takeoff no blue.
Brake test.
All right, now we're going to push the brakes.
Check.
Taxi checklist complete.
Okay, so there's our first bug. So what should have happened when he called takeoff no blue? He should have clicked the all button. He did not do that. I wonder if I have the right value set in the editor. I'll have to check that later. But I'll make sure we get that fixed. So what should happen before he calls takeoff no blue is he should click the this button right here. I've tested it on the fly-by-wire, so I know it works. And once you click that button, you'll see the message here go away. I got to be careful. Okay, so we're almost there. Oh, this is a good opportunity. New RAS. Still dialing the RAS in, but if you increase, you'll hear new sounds. Or you should. See, I spoke too soon about the no bugs. Do I have RAS enabled? We should have got a RAS. Let's make sure it is enabled. Yeah, it is. Okay, I'll have to check on that. We should have got a on runway message. All right, we'll just head out to runway 33 here. I'm sorry, I'm not paying attention with the aircraft because I'm writing down those two things that should have happened. And there's the cockpit ready, heads cleared. We'll get the RAS thing sorted here too. All right. I don't have the best setup where I'm at. I have a joystick with a terrible throttle. Be happy to return to my home office in a few months and then get all the flight sim stuff back. Would be fantastic. All right, so here we go as we approach. Whoop, excuse me, guys.
Approaching runway 33.
So there's the new RAS call. So RAS is working, but for some reason the on takeoff or on taxiway, I'll have to fix that. Notice the new sounds no longer sappy. That is the no kidding RAS or Honeywell sounds that you would get. So much more realistic than the prior SAPI. And remember, we're now within 550 feet of runway 33, so the copilot is automatically doing the lineup flow for us. And as you can see,
runway 33.
there we go. There's the RAS again, letting us know we're on runway 33. And as you can see, the screen has automatically flipped now for the lineup checklist to be performed. So let's go ahead and we will straighten that out. And let's go ahead and...
Lineup checklist. Takeoff runway.
3, 3.
3, 3.
Confirmed.
TCAS.
Set.
PAX.
Set.
Cabin crew. Cabin crew prepare for takeoff.
Notified.
Lineup checklist complete.
Okay, so there we go. The lineup checklist is all completed. One thing about the runway, if you were not on runway 33, the copilot would not confirm. He would ask you to check the runway. Again, that's all predicated on the setting that we have set in the plan page here. So make sure that whatever runway you go to is set correctly on the plan page. Otherwise, your copilot's going to think that you are on the wrong runway. Okay? Takeoff power.
Set.
As you just saw, I used my voice to set takeoff power.
Man flex.
He will also
SRS.
set climb. He will also set climb
Thrust set.
power. Takeoff roll has been detected.
knots.
Check.
V1. Rotate.
There's our rotation speed. Let's rotate.
Positive rate.
Gear up.
Gear up.
One thing, if you guys don't mind testing for me, I think we fixed the duplicate back
400 feet.
calls. So if you could test that, that would be great. We've tested it, and it looks like it works. We're going to just pitch down now a little bit, even though we're not quite at acceleration, because I need my hand to write something down. Climb power.
Set.
That's how you can get
Acceleration
around.
altitude.
That's how you can get around using a not calibrating your joystick. Just have FSO do it for you.
Autopilot.
Autopilot 1 on.
There we go. Autopilot 1 is now on. We're going to come down here to the MCDU and go to the flight plan, and we're going to go direct. Actually, we're just going to go direct right to start of the Ocean 5 arrival.
Flaps up.
Flaps up.
There's the flaps up. And then, as you can see, we are above 2,500 feet,
Flaps up.
so he automatically started the acceleration flow for us. A change in 2022, Airbus no longer recommends the after takeoff checklist. It is now just a flow that you just saw. And now the airborne mode is detected. Well, at least the Phoenix appears to be performing well. What we will do is just to make sure we get above the transition altitude, because there were some people saying that the copilot was resetting it after he set it to standard, resetting it back. So that should be fixed. But the next thing won't happen until we until about 10,000 feet. So I will pause for the sake of time, and then when we get to about 9,000 feet, I'll come back. Actually, there are still a few things we can talk about. So, for example, part of the company mode or career mode will be requirement to feed passengers, and that's all been reworked. I know we had some problems with that for the beta version, but if you were to click it now, there must be more than 175 nautical miles remaining for food services. Obviously, an airline on a short flight like this is not gonna do food services. So this is much more defined than it was in the beta version. Still have a long way to go, so please help us improve it. Right now, the focus is on aircraft and making sure the first officer works as it should. Looking at the progress report, we're 10 minutes from takeoff, and we've used 1,100 pounds of fuel. So again, this helps keep track of when we're doing. Right now, we look like we're a little ahead of schedule, so that is good. Stuff you have
Passing
to keep on mind.
10,000 feet.
And there goes the lights are now going to the off position or retract position. And everything looks like it's working as it should. So the next thing that will occur is FSFO will get to 18,000 feet, which is the transition altitude we have identified right here. And he will set the altimeters to standard. We will see you in just a little bit. Okay, back. We're about 17,700 feet. The Copilot should go ahead and change the altimeters to standard here in just a little bit.
Transition altitude.
Right
Check.
on cue, and now we'll monitor to make sure they stay at standard. We'll also check on the descent phase 2 to make sure we've got that bug fixed. I did go ahead while we were paused and looked at that previous RAWs error. Yeah, it looks like I did not name the WAV file correctly, so that's all fixed now. So we are currently bug free. We'll see how it goes though. Still got the descent phase to go, and yeah, I do not have that much faith in my programming expertise. Okay, so I just went ahead via voice and initiated open climb, so we'll get up there a little quicker, not following any constraints. We'll wait until about 24,000 feet, and then we should hear the Copilot address the passengers, as well as turn the seatbelt signs off. Okay, friends, looks like we're about 2,000 feet from our planned top of descent. At that time, we should get a message from the Copilot addressing the packs. Note here, we have about 52 nautical miles to go until our top of descent. The top of descent here is not the top of descent program within MCDU. That data is not exposed, so FSFO has to do its own calculation to figure that out, so there may be some discontinuity there. Also of note, you'll see an ARPT, that's airport. Looks like Rockland, or Rockport, I think. Yeah, okay, is our closest suitable airport where we could land in case of an emergency. That's what's presented right there. It's the closest suitable airport that we could potentially land at. It looks like we have 17 minutes.
From the flight deck, we've reached our cruising altitude. We hope you enjoyed today's flight so far, and we're going to do the best we can up here to make this as smooth as possible. However, when that seatbelt sign is on, we ask that you remain seated, as turbulence is unpredictable and can occur at any time. However, when the seatbelt sign is off, you are certainly free to get up and move about the cabin. Once again, welcome aboard.
Okay, there we go. There is the message. Again, and there goes the seatbelt. Yep, seatbelts are turned off.
Captain, turn off the seatbelt sign. You're free to move about the cabin, but when seated, please keep your seatbelts fastened as turbulence is unpredictable.
And as again, the seatbelt policy is still unchanged. I have it set to top of descent, top of climb. You could set it to 10,000 feet, or you could set it to manual if you want to control the seatbelts when they're turned on and off. Everything looks like it's performing as it should. So the next thing that will happen now is once we get within 20 nautical miles of the top of descent, you see we're at 40, the Copilot will inform us that we're, again, we're approaching top of descent. And then we will also get the ATIS report. The ATIS form will open automatically based on that get ATIS option that we discussed earlier in the flight. So we are about 18 nautical miles from anything happening. I will see you back here once we get a little closer. Okay, I'm back. As you can see, we are 23 nautical miles from the top of descent. Again, once we hit around 20 nautical miles, a lot of things will happen. First, the Copilot will let us know that we are within, that we are approaching top of descent. We will also get the automated ATIS screen will open, and we'll search for ATIS information for Logan International. There is the dispatch message coming in.
Approaching top of descent.
And we just got the ATIS as exactly as programmed, or exactly as it should work. You can see here the ATIS has actually changed since the last time we downloaded it. So there we go. What do we have? Numerous cranes in Boston vicinity. Yeah, that's pretty standard. We are still, looks like departure is runway 27. Looks like they're landing 33 and 33 right for visual ILS 33 left, visual for 33 right. We have 27 programs, so we will keep that. And remember, we said within 15 nautical miles, we want the copilot to program to automatically start the descent flow. So that's exactly what he's doing now. He put the QNH in for us. Again, doing everything for us, which is fantastic. Looks like our VLS is going to be 129. Okay. And there we go. Everything looks like is being done. Since we have a VLS, we will check it. I think it was 134. So let's enter 134. And we are good to go. I am going to set my minimums to 0, and I will explain why. Because I have the setting, let's see if we can find it, set flaps enabled, and not set flaps, excuse me, set autopilot and set autopilot enabled. I don't want my copilot to turn off my my autopilot. So if you set this to 0, your minimums to 0, the copilot will not turn off the autopilot once you get at the designated altitude that you identified via the SOPs here. So here you can see we have autopilot off is set to 500 feet, and auto throttle disconnect set to 450 feet. If we had this at 200, he would go ahead and do that. However, it's set to 0. So now your copilot's going to assume that this is a Cat 3 auto land. All right, so let's go back. One thing he did not do that he should have done was reset the altitude, because we did have it. Didn't we put a new altitude in there? Oh, I forgot to. Dang it. Okay. So, yeah, if we would have had 2,000 in there, he would have reset this to 2,000. Set altitude, 2,000. And as you can see, he's setting that now. Again, that's a new option.
Altitude 2000.
The captain has turned on the seatbelt sign. In a moment, we will
Managed
come
climb.
to the cabin to collect your
We
trash.
don't want managed climb. We want open. That's how voice commands can help. Acknowledge system changes, let you know that you've selected the wrong one. All right, again, that's the speech program working exactly as it should. Now we can set altitude, set speed, set the heading, set all those things in the Phoenix that we could always do in other aircraft. So that is really a nice feature. And my apologies, I thought I really did set the new altitude, but I guess I didn't, so. All right, so the next thing we want to have happen is we'll have a couple of flight attendant callouts that will occur, as well as once we get. The big thing is I want to make sure once we're below the transition altitude that once he resets it to the altimeter, the outside altimeter, that it stays reset. We've had numerous reports that said he reset it back to standard. We don't want that, so hopefully that has been fixed. And we are going to check that here in just a little bit. Nothing, again, will happen until about 18,000 feet, so we'll save you some time and see you back then.
Certainly been our pleasure to have you on board today, and hope we get a chance to fly with you again on a future flight. Sit back, relax, and we'll have you at the gate soon.
All right, that was the co-pilot, again, addressing the passengers. Just to reiterate, those are options that you can absolutely turn off. So pilot messages is what you heard right there. If you don't want him to give the top of climb, the top of descent messages, you can simply turn that off. Same with the cabin messages. Again, I recognize there are several programs that just do it better than FSFO, so want to give you the option to turn them off or turn them on. Hopefully, we can make them better again. As I've stated, the whole point of FSFO is a value proposition. So we'll continue to work on those and give a complete product at a price that's less than $20 US. All right, we are coming now below 20,000 feet. So I'm keenly interested in this if this transition altitude bug is resolved. And then once we get below 18,000 feet, we will go ahead and run the approach checklist, which is again new. We've added a total, I think, of 5 flows and checklists. Unfortunately, that's the whole impetus behind requiring you to restore your flows and checklists. Lots of changes. Hopefully, I'll get a chance when I test the PMDG 737 out. I'll do another video to show the difference between Airbus and Boeing. And while we're at it, I actually have the CRJ and the 787 coded. They're finished. I have yet to test them. I haven't even loaded them up to test them. My goal is hopefully once, if we can confirm everything's working here, is to start testing the CRJ next week and have that out in rapid succession, at least before the PMDG 777 releases. That's my favorite aircraft, so once that drops, that's going to be all focused on that. So we'll start testing the CRJ next week, and hopefully everything will be good there. And then if time permits, we'll start testing the 787. And then we'll start porting the other aircraft that are in FSFO next over to version 5.
Transition altitude.
Check.
All right, let's see if it stays there. And it looks like it has. Okay. Transition altitude, or the altitude is a little bit off because I'm not using live weather for testing. I tend to shut everything down to make sure everything works as it should. So we are good to go. That's happy. Yep, so getting back, and then after that, once we get the CRJ out and the 787 out, then we can focus on the any-build Airbus, which is not the new Airbus, of course, the 300 that was released.
At this time, we need all passengers in their seats with seatbelts fastened and seats in the full upright position. We'll be coming through the cabin shortly to collect all remaining trash.
Yeah, just getting back to the any-build A300. What a great aircraft. I think that is incredibly undervalued. I absolutely love flying that, so I will get around to converting that to version 5. The only one that I'm kind of hesitant about is the Just Flight 146. Great aircraft, but it just hasn't sold very well. It's there's just a few hundred people using it within FSFO. So if time permits, I definitely will. But it's all based on time. Eventually, I would like to start building new aircraft profiles. We haven't had one, and gosh, I think the any build 300 was the last one, and that was over a year ago. So definitely looking forward to building new aircraft profiles. Because for me personally, I have to do a lot of studying. I have to get through the AFCOMs and look at some airline SOPs, and it forces me to learn, and that's a benefit or a great byproduct of doing new aircraft profiles. You get to really learn them. So I'm excited to have an opportunity to start building new aircraft profiles. I also want to do the ATR. Gosh, we need more props in Microsoft Flight Simulator. My favorite prop is the Dash 8. The Majestic Dash 8 being one of my favorite aircraft of all time, top 3. If you were to force me, I'd put the Level D 767 for FSX or FS 2004 as my favorite all-time sim. That was a game changer when it was released way back in FS 2002. Just an absolute game changer back then. So that's my favorite. Followed by the PMDG 777, and then the criminally underrated Majestic Dash 8. I also have plans to do the, speaking of criminally underrated, the Mad Dog. That's been on the books for a while. In fact, some of the coding was started under Next, and just timing is a thing. If I could do this full time, that would be we'd be able to move much faster. But a couple hours in the morning, and a couple hours at night in between my real job, the gym, family, is about all we can do. So hence the slow pace. But still very enjoyable. Never will become vaporware. And even somebody made a comment the other day about, oh, we haven't had an update forever. Well, it's really only been 2 months. I think people just got used to this product being updated literally almost on a weekly basis. So when we stopped doing that, everybody's like, oh. But again, this update was just massive. It was just a large update. Requires a lot of testing. All right, as we are moving now to 10,000 feet, I am very happy with the progress of the Phoenix A320. In fact, I am probably going to call the testing good on this one and move to the fly-by-wire. So we are getting closer to getting this update out, at least in a beta fashion. And again, hopefully it meets what many of you were asking for. So far, I found this flight to be fairly smooth. FSFO hasn't been a hindrance, or yeah, the operations have occurred exactly where they should, and very, very happy so far. By the way, speaking of aircraft, when I talked about my top three, the Phoenix might actually work its way in. At least this version of it, have to give serious consideration. It is just a phenomenal aircraft. What a great sim for the price too. My God.
Passengers, we have reached an altitude that requires all electronics to be turned off. For landing, you may continue to use your handheld phones and tablets in airplane mode. Thank you.
All right, there's our electronic message off. Yeah, when Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 comes out, we get beyond ATC, an ATC we've all been asking for years, with the virtual copilot of your choice. With the Phoenix version 2, the PMDG 777, it is going to be a really good time to be a virtual copilot, if you will. All right, there's the landing lights all on as they should, as well as the turn-off light. So we are looking to be exactly where we need to be, as we are 25 nautical miles out. This is going to be an auto land. We are now decreasing speed. I'm going to go ahead and engage autopilot.
Autopilot 2 on. Autopilot 1 on.
All right. Oh, that's right, because I think in there we put 200 feet. And we did. That's the only problem. The throttle's in my way. So we'll go to init. Oh, I wanted to go back. Excuse me. And we will enter 0 into here. And now once we get into approach mode, we should be able to use auto landing. All right, we're decelling now. Oh, I didn't run the approach checklist. Too busy talking.
Approach checklist.
Approach briefing. We're expecting the ILS approach for runway 04. Right. This will be a Cat 3 auto landing with no minimum altitude. The reported runway conditions are normal. We'll use auto brakes low. We can expect to park at gate Echo 4. In case of go around, we'll climb per ATC instructions on the runway heading. Any questions?
I'm good.
Completed.
Error reference.
2 Niner 1.
2 Niner 1.
Check.
Passenger signs.
On.
Minimums.
Check.
Auto brakes.
Set.
Engine mode.
Set.
Approach checklist complete.
Okay, the reason why I didn't read back the minimums is because it was set to 0. One thing that I noticed, though, that's why you do the briefing. This should be runway 27. I must have put it to switched it along the way, but that is incorrect. So it should be runway 27. If we get the airport data for runway 27, it should be 111.30. That's why we couldn't initiate the auto land. That's why everything is off. I should have, if now, so this is, yeah, all right, it's all programmed in. Now, if I would have done this earlier, I would have caught it, and it would have been a much easier. So what we're going to do is we're going to disconnect the autopilot, and we're going to do a manual landing on runway 27. Let's just keep going. We're all right. We're all right. But that was my fault, and that is why the approach checklist within FSFO is important, because it allows you to catch mistakes like that. And really, I should have caught it when I reviewed the flight plan prior to. So, my fault entirely. All right, we're down to about 6,000. Flaps 1.
Flaps 1.
Okay, good. I wanted to make sure we did not have a duplicate call out. We did not. Autopilot coming off. And this is going to be an aggressive approach. So you'll have to excuse me. We're going to use voice commands. Am I in open mode? I am. Open mic. Perfect. And then I want to turn off this set of flaps and landing gear, or landing gear. I will do that by myself. Okay. Thrust is in idle. And I'm going to turn voice off, so I'm not going to make any other comments while we land, so it doesn't get misconstrued. Actually, I should be able to, because I've added a confidence method to the voice, so it should be much better at not misinterpreting your commands. Gosh, I feel really silly that I didn't look at that flight plan page. Not a big deal, though. There's no wind or anything. There's no weather, so... Just going to be an aggressive approach. Landing gear down. Gear down.
Gear down.
Need some drag. Yeah, this is going to be ugly. We're definitely going to fail the stable approach. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No big deal.
Gear up.
Oops, sorry.
Gear down.
Flaps 2.
Flaps 2.
Landing checklist.
Landing checklist. Go around altitude. Flaps 2.
Approaching runway 27.
So, if you were doing this in real life, you would absolutely do a go around. But we are.
Gear up.
Yeah, you know what? We're gonna do a go around.
Go around.
Flaps 1. Flaps up.
Bam! How about that? That is the FSFO executing a go around flow for you. I wish I could say I planned that. I did not. But that is FSFO operating just as he should on a go around flow.
Autopilot 1 on.
So we will come back around here and we will re-execute the landing. There's no need for you guys to watch.
Watch your airspeed.
I will see you on, whoop. Of course, I will see you guys when we get there. We are busting this all up. I'll see you guys on runway 27. Sorry about this, too. All right, welcome back from that embarrassing go-around. At least FSFO worked as it should. In fact, I need to add another command to my editor. Once the flow was completed, he should have returned the throttle to the climb detent. He did not. All right, so now we are established on the ILS runway 27, not 4 right, which is what caused the go-around in the first place. So, yeah, let's... now we are again established, and this should work as intended. 10 nautical miles out, fully established, fully configured. We will return once we get a little bit closer, and we can run the landing checklist. Sorry about that. Always check your your flight planning page. I was fully expecting 27, and I had entered 4 right. SimBrief must have had 4 right where I wanted 27. Not SimBrief's fault. I downloaded this flight planner, completed it last night, so entirely up to me. Too busy talking, not enough busy monitoring my surroundings. All right, so we'll see you in just a little bit. Okay, as we have the runway, we're right where we need to be. Let's go ahead and actually execute the landing checklist.
Landing checklist. Go around altitude.
Set.
Cabin crew. Cabin crew, prepare for landing.
Notified.
ECAM memo. Speed brake armed.
Landing no blue.
Landing checklist complete.
All right, that was perfect. We don't want the copilot, though, to notify us that the speed brake is armed during the flow, though. Just do it, so I'll make a note of that. All right, there we go. We are right where we need to be, back on track. Everything is operating as it should. Again, apologize for that, but it was a great opportunity
Autopilot 2 on.
For us to check out the go-around flow, which worked perfectly. So that was a nice feature. Again, I want to add more of those checklists and flows for non-normal, because as you just saw, it's a benefit. You don't fly these aircraft alone. And I engaged Autopilot 2 because we're going to do a auto land, which is what I wanted to do the first time. But since I had 4 right, the Copilot put in the ILS frequency for 4 right, which is why I would have caught that sooner.
Approaching runway 27.
There's Roz again, working perfectly. I would have caught that earlier had I executed the appropriate checklist at the appropriate, or the approach checklist at the appropriate time. That's the criticality of checklists. All right. So I am just monitoring now as we're performing an auto land. Everything looks good. And we should get the retard message here in just a little bit.
100. 50, 40, 30, 20, 10. Retard. 5. Retard. Retard.
Perfect.
Retard.
Spoilers.
Retard. 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 Retard.
Yeah, my throttle's not configured. All right.
Reverse green.
All right, there we go. Let's go ahead and reverse
1,000
idle.
feet remaining.
Oh, sorry guys.
Manual braking. 70 knots.
Testing RAS again. I wish I could say that was something I wanted to do, but there we go.
Approaching runway 04 left 09.
Oh, there's an error right there. Says a bug. Okay, something's up with my configuration. I have,
Approaching runway 04 left.
See you again soon.
so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna quickly,
On runway 04 left.
there's RAS working perfectly as it should. Let's go, what am I doing?
Watch your ground speed.
Yeah, there's something wrong with my throttle right now, guys. It is not, even though I have it at idle on my hardware, it is still not showing. So I definitely have to calibrate that. So
After landing checklist.
definitely not
Radar,
going how I had
BWS.
hoped.
Off.
Oh,
After
excuse
landing
me.
checklist complete.
FSFO is working perfectly. I did the sim that is kind of letting me down. So we are clear to cleared taxi to Echo 4. And actually, it's not the sim letting me down. It's because I did not calibrate my stuff. So let's see. Let's go ahead and set the parking brake. Again, you can see the throttle still wants to go, even though it's idle on my hardware, which is why we got that continuous retard message. All right, so there's the parking brake set. Copilot now working through his pre-flight flow. Fuel pumps are coming off. And then he's going to go ahead and cut the engines. And you can see because of the throttle, even with the engine cut, is still calling that out. Okay, so now doors are opening. Again, that is something you can configure within the editor. And now we have the doors that are open, and we are all good to go. The packs will start deboarding. Let's go ahead and run our parking checklist.
Parking checklist. Parking brake.
And set.
Engines.
Are off.
Off.
Wing lights.
Off.
Is
Fuel
off.
pumps.
And
Off.
those are off.
Parking checklist complete.
And now we should get our log for the flight. Obviously, the approachability stability failed as it should. Landing gear down failed as it should, and the taxi speed. So all this has been fixed now. You might recall in the previous that it failed. And you can see here our go around also indicated here. Poor rating as I should. The taxi speed fast. I was annoyed by the late arrival because of the go around flow, and as such got a poor no reputation points as a byproduct of that, because I have cheap tickets, thankfully. Now, if you want to take a look at the why these failed, you can now open the ACARS report, and what that will do is it will open a text file, and it will give you all the relevant data for that flight, so you could take a look. At the time, 30 excessive taxi speed. I hit 30 knots, and we heard him say that. So you could take a look here on what happened. Excessive beat speed. This is why I failed the approach checklist, because the approach stability. I would say that's true 5,500. That is definitely a failed approach. At 305 feet, the landing gear was not extended, so that's why I failed that. I failed on multiple occasions for the approach stability, but this gives you a absolute to tell you exactly why you failed these things. That is now the ACARS reports, along with times too. It gives you the times just to see. So hopefully you'll find this useful at the end of the flight to find out why. So not a perfect flight by me. I messed up a lot of things, but certainly FSFO worked exactly how it should. I'm actually really impressed. Only a few bugs. Oh, that's right. It wasn't a company flight. I will update this in my log. FSFO operated exactly how it should. So I'm going to move on now to the fly-by-wire, and hopefully it will be as bug-free, and we can get that out very, very quickly to you. With that, really appreciate all the support. Continue to make suggestions. That's why this update exists as it does right now, is because the suggestions that you all have made. With that, until next time, thank you for watching. Hope to see you again soon.